Hey guys, let's get live on Instagram and then we're going to get started with Dr. Holly. So here we go. Again, I'm always excited to have a new guest in my podcast room who I don't know. I just hear your name. Oh, you got to talk to Dr. Holly. She's amazing. So please introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you? What do you do? What's your deal?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Jody. So I am Dr. Holly Tucker. I am in coastal North Carolina. I am a chiropractor. I have my own practice. That's where I am here today, Azalea Chiropractic and Acupuncture. And I have been a certified Profit First professional for the last almost 6 years. And I work with a remote accounting firm called Beyond Your Books. And I do Profit First coaching for many different business types.
What is Profit First? What are you talking about?
Profit First is a methodology that was written a little over 10 years ago by this guy named Mike Michalowicz. He's super entertaining entrepreneur. And he wrote this book that really I read it back in 2016 or 2017, and it just completely revolutionized the way that I saw my business finances. Being a small business owner at that time, I was in practice with my spouse, and it just completely changed our outlook on what success meant and all the things, like making our lives easier from the financial aspect. So I became very passionate about it. I sought out certification and, through a couple of other life and job changes and moves across the country and all the other things, I still love it. So I still to this day, I do coaching and I practice. So that's me.
And the coaching, it's not like a get a certificate in a weekend kind of thing. It's a legit program and it's also their headquarters are like 30 minutes from where I am right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So how did you go from, wow, this is a really cool system to, I really want to teach this to people? Tell us about that journey.
Yeah. I mean, at the time when I read it, I was in a group coaching program, and we read it sort of like as a book club, and we read it together, and it instantly clicked for me, but then I felt like it didn't click instantly for other people. And so then people are coming to me, asking me for help just within that community. And so it's like, I started creating resources at that time. And then I just, was just, I don't know, pathologically curious about it. And I find it very easy to pull reports and look at numbers and just kind of cut through the BS of everything and just find some clarity. Like, what is this report telling you? And if it's not ultimately clear just by reading the words on the page, then let's make the report more intuitive to you. So that's where I got a little bit more into diving into the actual financial reports of it, joined the accounting firm, and, rest is history there.
Good for you. I love, you could be sitting on the couch. You could just sit this one out and decide, maybe I'll do it next time. But you jumped in because it was a passion of yours, because of the coincidence around they're asking. So tell us more about what triggers you to say yes to leaning into it.
I think for me, it's just that transformation of what I saw, and, having, all of us like to think maybe that we're having a unique experience in this profession, but we're not. A lot of us are having seeing very universal trends when it comes to the economy or just with our career trajectory. I'm very passionate. In the early days, I was very passionate because the group that I was working with was exclusively for women in chiropractic. And so a lot of us have a lot of the same story. Maybe we're first-time college graduates and first-time small business owners. And that financial literacy piece really wasn't there for a lot of people. So I think that's ultimately
what would you say are the common threads that you see over and over, not just chiros, but also all of the wellness practice owners? What do you see happen? What are the subluxations? Where do they get stuck?
I think they get stuck in knowing what they should be monitoring, so having a quick pulse of just what am I even doing? How often am I supposed to be looking at things? And then again, that looking at it and saying, okay, well now what do I do about it? So, the Profit First system, inherently it is a system, right? So it gives you a time frame to follow, to be accountable to, looking at your own money and numbers and those sorts of things. Because there's inherent, not blocks in it, but there's inherent triggers within the system. And it's well, you have to pay attention to me right now so that you can continue to operate. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This is a left field question. Specific to chiropractic, How do you think it would change things for us as a profession if they taught the profit first system in chiropractic school?
I mean, I definitely think that there's a lot of room to grow on just transparency within, like, what does, being a small business owner look like? I think that, there's a lot of things that are, a lot of numbers that are thrown out when you're, doing an admissions tour or when you're early on, and, things are, there's nothing but the sky is the limit. And it's like, well, there aren't big fancy jobs out there for every single graduate. We are still largely an entrepreneurial profession, and you need to understand what that means, whether or not you're interviewing for a job when you graduate, or if ultimately you have to end up going, into business ownership for yourself and running your own practice. So I think that it starts from, if there were just more transparency and real life examples of here's what it means to be a small business owner, from the get-go.
I feel like a lot of that is just having chiropractors or whatever kind of school you're in, having people who are already doing what you're going to school for come and do talks. And I always say to new grads, go spend time with people who are miserable in practice. Go watch what they do. People who are just dreading it and their walls have mold on them. Like, go watch what they do and do the opposite of what they're doing. And that's true for money too. Have you studied Janine Roth at all?
Mm-mm.
No, Janine Roth wrote a book called Money, Food, and God, or Women, Money, Women, Food, and God. And then I'm bastardizing it, but there's something, her next book was looking at how the patterns around money for women are very similar to the patterns around food for money. And if you're very conservative with your spend financially, generally speaking, you're very conservative with the way that you eat, with the way that you consume food. So there are some of us that our cut is, I want more of everything. I was born 13 pounds with my thumb in my mouth. Like, give me more yesterday and I wasn't even born yet. So I've always been like, more, spend, eat, move, right? Whereas other people are very reserved and like every dollar is accounted for. So how do you find people where they're at in their different spending styles and relationships with money?
Sure. It's definitely a spectrum. I mean, some people are very much in the corner of like self-sacrifice, till it's extremely a problem. Or they're really pressing and looking for this business to absolutely, where they're almost sacrificing the business to then take their cut of it. So it's like, sometimes I, in my role as a coach, it's like, okay, I need you to trust the process and let's make this plan and stick with it. And then let's see what revelations come on the back end of that. And a lot of those things, tend to work themselves out in the short term when they realize like, oh, maybe I really was holding myself back because I was not financially rewarding myself like I should have been, or I really was holding back my growth because of what I'm demanding from this business when maybe it actually needs some more work put into it. So.
Right. I have so many questions. So, one of the things that, is different in 2026 in this conversation than if we were having it 10 years ago is we can look at the spend that we have, our average monthly spend, and probably upwards of 60 to 70% of it can be replaced by AI. We can look at the systems that we're spending money on. We can look at the people that we're spending money on, and we can probably take most of it and replace it with systems. However, the thing that we cannot replace is the connection, the true human connection. And some of our practice owners need a person at the front desk to connect with their practice members, make them feel welcome, make sure that they're nurtured into the adjusting room or the treatment room. And other people, that is the last thing that they want. So my next question for you is, where do they start? Let's say we're talking to somebody who has a practice and they've got $100 in the bank and they are really trying to make ends meet. How can we possibly talk to them about being smart with money when every penny they make is accounted for? And I'm going to double that with a second question. The second thing is, what about people who are crushing it financially and have just never gotten their act together when it comes to organizing their money? My guess is that the answer is going to be very similar.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, by the book, the profit first method is based off of the foundation of setting up 5 bank accounts, where you don't have just one big business bank account and checking and everything's coming and going, and you don't really know, like if you go to log in, you don't really know, like, is that a good number? Is that a bad number? I mean, obviously if it's in the negative, we can all agree that's probably a bad number. But setting up the foundation of the profit first system literally starts with, we're looking at all of your revenue, and we're going to base it out just 1 percentage point at a time towards your goals. So for that person who literally has $100 in the bank, okay, well, how much different is it to have $99 in the bank? And that's where we challenge and we say, okay, I literally want you to set aside 1%, even if that's just $1, 1%, and we're going to forget about it. And that's going to force you to demand that profit, even if it's, a very small dollar amount by the time all the math is done. So, my process looks like, of course, going back on historical, if we have that historical data, sometimes I'm working with more of a startup and they don't really have a lot of data to go off of. So we know we can still start those basic things. So just as a review, those 5 bank accounts that we talk about in the profit first system, number 1, there's a separation of your incoming money versus all of your outgoing accounts. So one account dedicated to all of your money comes into that. And at least on a regular basis, I'd say my preference is once a week that you're going into that account and then you're funding
That's
your
what
other
I do, Holly.
right?
And I'm always like, this is way too much, Jody. Chill out. But I'm like, if I go more than a week, I disconnect from it. Yeah. That's so funny. Sorry,
so one account, all the money comes in, and then the other 4. Again, once a week, you fund the other 4, and those are based on percentages. And this goes back to the profit first method. So literally 1% goes to profit. We're done. Owner's pay, we kind of have to talk about, right? I have to know what your basic needs are. And that comes through, our discovery and our time working together. So I don't really assign a percentage to that. What I love to say, at least 10%. Some people, that's a stretch. And some people are like, no way, I pay myself way more than that. Okay, cool. Again, we're going to figure out those numbers together. 5% goes to a tax account. 5% is my base. By the book, the goal is 15%. I will tell you, in years of working with people, if you're in a high tax jurisdiction like New York City or California, we might have to go north on that 15%. But again, we're going to find that out in discovery. So I always say, just to get the ball rolling and get the juices flowing, throw 5% into a savings account for your taxes. And then the one that's left is your operating expenses. So we have to get real on our next sort of phase of working together is, let's sit down and I'm going to hold you accountable to explaining every single one of these expenses to me. And if you don't know what it's for, then why don't we pause it or cut it off for right now? Because again, depending on, is it feast or famine, you might be missing things that you don't even know you were paying for, or, you might just not be in a place where you can actually afford to be paying for that. So yeah, we go line by line.
I really envy your certainty. It's remarkable. And I think that it's one of the, there are things that I know, right? So I guess, let me rephrase. I envy your certainty around money stuff because I think it's very unique and it's contagious. And that is the one thing that I look for in a coach. Actually, there are a couple. One is, are you sure that you know? If someone comes to me to adjust their baby and I'm like, I think I know what to do, but I'm not really positive, they're probably not going to trust me and hand me their baby. The same is true when it comes to my money or my nutrition or the welfare of my kids or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. Where do people start? So let's say today is Monday, April 27th. Let's talk to a naturopath who is opening their practice, or maybe they're even 10 years in. What do they do today? What's the first thing that they need to do?
If they're wanting to implement profit first, I would like to say go hire a coach, but you also might not be, that might not be within your wheelhouse. But listening to the book, I think, is the first step, because in the book, I'm a listener. I'm an audiobook junkie. I love listening to books. Mike, I think, is in his 3rd recording of the book. So he brings in so many fun and engaging stories. And again, these are all across different professions, different industries. But what you will find is that money mindset, or your ability to talk about money or have confidence about money, is universal. Like we all can deal with the same things no matter what our quote day job is, right? So listening to the book so that you can see that like, oh, yes, this does apply to me, or this can apply to me. And you may come to understand a little bit more about yourself and how you even became an entrepreneur. But yeah, I mean, if you're serious about wanting to find clarity within your numbers, we have to look at those reports. And if you hit a block or a barrier there, then that is, you need somebody trusted to help you cut through the mud and read through these reports. And, by the end of the week or by the end of the month, you're actually going to have a plan moving forward. Because if you just get paralyzed by looking at reports, you're not going to go anywhere, because obviously it's a block or it's a problem for you.
I hate reports more than anything, but I also appreciate how important they are. And I'm very into who, not how, and how I get that I hate reports, and I'm not going to fit a square peg into a round hole on that. However, how important is it that I have people in my life who love reports, who I can trust?
Yeah.
Where do you kind of dance with the bookkeeper and the accountant? How does your role fit into that?
Yeah, sure. So with the firm that I currently consult with, which is Beyond Your Books, is a full service remote bookkeeping firm. So we have a team of bookkeepers across the US. And when a new client or new business comes to us, you have one dedicated bookkeeper. And then if they show interest in Profit First, I'm also tapped in on their team, so that once they're onboarded, I can go in and fully, be engaged in their account and be able to do my assessment before really I get on the phone with them. Sometimes it's flipped though. Sometimes people do just come in strictly for coaching and they already have the bookkeeping stuff that's set up. And so then I am more of your first contact point, and I need you to then send me any reports or get me any sort of access and how we're going to start this process together. But every single one of our clients, if you're an in-house bookkeeping client, every single one of my meetings with you, your bookkeeper is also on the call, because they're also seeing the day-to-day transactions. I'm really only flying in maybe once a month. Every other week, if we're in an implementation stage with a client, I'm going to be much more hands-on. I'm going to be checking in on their account and seeing how balances are doing, and whoever's doing those transfers. Sometimes I'm never doing the transfers. Sometimes it is the business owner that's doing those transfers at the bank or online banking, or sometimes our bookkeepers are doing it, or sometimes we have an automation, like Relay Bank has an official partnership with Profit First, and there's things we can go in and set up their account to where, boom, it's all doing it on an automated basis.
Why can you tell me? My kid was asking me about this weekend.
Yeah.
Why would somebody want Relay as opposed to investing in the stock market, or why put your money in Relay?
I mean, Relay is just a bank. They just don't have a brick and mortar, but they are backed by a brick and mortar bank. So it's not investing. It is just a bank account where you can have up to 20 different sub accounts within that bank account. And they can all have a virtual card or a physical debit card associated with them. And they have those automations where you can go in, we can tell it exactly what we want it to do for the Profit First method, how often you want your distributions or your transfers to happen. And it's all operating in the background for you. They do have some advanced features that'll do like bill pay and invoicing and things like that. And there are some maybe high yield savings account options at a certain level, but they're not a stock market or anything like that or investing.
If you could stand on the rooftops, if I could stand on the rooftops right now, I would stand up on the rooftops and I would scream, everybody needs a chiropractor. That would be my bird song. Everybody needs a chiropractor, whether you have back pain or headaches or your baby's breech or whatever it is, you still need a chiropractor. Just like you have a dentist and you probably have a primary, you need a chiropractor too if you want to live optimal expression on the planet during your lifetime. Mm-hmm. What would you scream on the top of your lungs? What would your bird song be if you were standing on the same roof?
That's a hard question. Because I am a chiropractor, but I am very passionate about saving money and being a good steward of your money and your future, your financial future. So I think it would have to be something about like live a sustainable life, and that comes from financial stewardship and the health of how you treat your body.
What is a sustainable? What is that? Can you give us like a day-to-day example of what a sustainable life looks like? I love that saying.
Yeah. I mean, I think that knowing your true values and doing things that are, living out your expression every single day. For me, it's helping people. I have 2 kids. We talk about this a lot within our family, is like, hey, when there's something that comes up, maybe a behavior that we want to redirect or something like that. And I'm like, I remind them, I'm like, remember, we're helpers. Like, we go out into the world and we help people. It doesn't mean you have to be a chiropractor to do that, but ultimately that's a defining thing in our family, is that we exist to help people and to put good out into the world.
I love that. And how old are they?
Oh, 10 and almost 13. That's the one we're having trouble with.
However, and 13's tricky, right? There's a lot going on. Yeah. Would you say that they're a helper is what their teachers would say about them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If we say it every day to them and it becomes normalized to them, they'll experience it at such a deep level. I'm so sure about that. We can do so much wrong as moms and dads and whoever's listening to this, but if we do that right, if we have this, it's kind of like the thing that's scrolling across the bottom of the screen, like it is what it is, right? If the same thing is said over and over from the time that they're babies until the time that they leave, they're going to know that they know that at least that is true, whether it's a God thing or a health thing or a love thing or a be helpful. I love that you tell your kids to be helpful, if nothing else. Like, I think that's beautiful. What are you positive of?
I mean, I'm positive that with what your influences are, who you surround yourself with, has a very big impact on your life and your outlook. And if sometimes it means unplugging or turning the TV off or whatever else, like you can still put good out into the world, no matter what chaos is going around.
And if you spend a lot of time around toxicity and toxic thinking, toxic talking, toxic languaging, it really is. It's either effective because you mirror it, or it's effective because you resist it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of that comes back to like a lot of it comes back to like money mindset and that sort of thing. I mean, like, the whole idea of like scarcity versus abundance. Like, if you're continuing to look, for the problems and not for opportunities, then it's just a vicious cycle. So yeah, that can definitely manifest within your money journey.
And on the same token, like if I spend time with a friend who challenges me, if I say that I can't afford something, right? Like, there are people in my life who look at their food on their plate and talk about how fattening it is. And I think that's like a Jersey mama thing, right? Like, but if I look at what's on my plate, or I look at the money in my wallet and I have languaging around it that is positive and energy positive oriented, it's going to change something for me, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe it changes the 3 seconds before I make the decision to spend it or bite it or whatever it might be. And if I feel like if I have people around me who that's normal, it's normal to be wise with the words that you choose. It's normal to get adjusted by your chiropractor on a regular basis. Then that will become my norm. Kind of like what you say to your kids, go be helpful. If nothing else, be helpful, right? So, that's such a good thing to remember. And that was it. That was the moment that I was waiting for, Holly. Is there anything else that you want to tell our audience that you're like, oh, I really wanted to say this?
No, I mean, I aim to also just be a resource, if anybody has any questions as far as, reaching out, I'm happy to, engage in a short dialogue if it's going to be a good fit for not. I'm not a hard sell type of person. I'm like take it or leave it. Here's directly what the results could be if we continue on working together. That's kind of how, I treat my chiropractic practice as well. Versus also how I, treat my financial coaching clients is like, this is our plan and this would be the ultimate goal, and we can continue to work together and we can hold each other accountable to that, moving forward. But yeah, I mean, be happy to answer any sort of questions or anything like that.
What happens if people come to you and they have a bookkeeper and an accountant that they love working with?
Mhm. Yeah, then absolutely. Then it's just it's a neutral third party. It's coming in. I'm doing an assessment and again making recommendations. And yes, if that's the only thing that's available to you or the only way that you want to engage, then for sure we don't need to work together in the long term. But I think that the questions and the prompts that we ask and the plan that we make can definitely be a step in the right direction, even if you're wanting to more DIY it. I mean, I completely DIY'd it, for my practice back in 2017. So it can be done, but it is also nice to like have somebody to talk through and be like, yeah, I'll look at those spreadsheets with you and I'll help you pull those reports. Like I'll pull it out of you, but also, like I'm curious. I mean, I peek in all the time at prior clients, reports just to see like, oh, I'm curious, even if we're not working together anymore, and I still have access and there's consent involved, right? Of like, yeah, I want to be there cheering on your success, and no matter the capacity.
So you guys, just to recap, if you have your own business, whether you're a chiropractor or whatever your craft is, get the book Profit First. Listen to it once, listen to it again, listen to it 3 times. Get the paperback book of it and just literally red pen and highlight it. And lean on people who are experts in it, like Dr. Holly. You can reach out to her at beyondyourbooks.com. It's so funny. One of the communities that I really love in chiropractic, Mile High, the person who runs that community, his name is Danny Knowles, and he said, what's the number one book you would recommend someone in school or someone just starting out in practice reading? And I said Profit First, because if someone had told me this 27 years ago when I started practice, I probably would have done a backflip.
Yeah.
Well, Holly, thank you so much for your time today. And I'm grateful that you said yes and you came on the podcast. And you guys reach out to Dr. Holly, beyondyourbooks.com. And if you're listening to this, go make the world better with great care. And Holly, please stay in the podcast room. And thank you for your time today.